What's going on, boys? My name is Sid, and I, as you can tell, actually play the crew. I, very young, picked up the crew 1 because I saw a video of playing the crew 1, I think it was by the Rad Brad, and I bought the game and I played it a bunch. And then a couple years later, the crew 2, that one came out, still the same vague game with a bunch of other stuff added, etc, etc, different tone, different whatever. Played 2,000 hours of that, more than 5,000 hours of that. Close to 6 now, and I'm now coming up on 1,000 hours on the most recent game, the Crew Motorfest. I'm someone who actually cares about the Crew franchise, and that's why I wanted to talk about Stop Killing Games, and maybe with a bit more of a focus on Pirate Software's most recent videos on the topic about Stop Killing Games and Stop Killing Games 2, the sequel, whatever. That's what we're here to talk about. And this is gonna be a bit more of a boring video for my general audience. Yep. No, none of that big editing that I've been doing recently. Yes. Speaking of, if this video reaches the intended audience that it's meant for, hey, my name is Sid, as I already said, and if you're into racing games at all, and if you want content on the most recent Crew game, I know it's you know, some people who like the original one don't like the newest one. It's got a lot of good about it, and a lot of bad that I complain about all the time. Don't worry. I complain a lot about, my audience can tell you that. But if you want some content on some racing games in general, but focus on the Crew Motorfest, maybe check it out. I'm here, subscribe, whatever. But look, if you're just here, if I was to really quickly plug anything, is just like, if you're here but you're not into racing games specifically, but you're into cars, it's more general. Buzzword, cars, buzzword. Talk. The talk is in the podcast. I've got a podcast. Car-based podcast. It's in the description. Whatever. It's there if you're more into cars and you enjoy the rambling that's about to come up. It's more coherent because I have a co-host. But regardless, that's not what this is about. This is about the Crew 1 and Pirate Software's videos on the Crew 1. So, without further ado, let the yap begin. So, when I first watched Pirate Software's video, I was like, okay, that bit kind of makes sense, yeah. So I went to go talk about it in the Crew Unlimited Discord server. And that's you know, the server that's dedicating itself to bringing the crew back online. I went to talk about it there, and I got some things better explained to me. Also, I got Ross's response, also handed to me on the specific topics, and I delved into that a bit. I talked to Whammy, the guy who's sort of the head of the server, is also doing a bunch of the work, provides a lot of the updates on what's going on, as well as hosts the events. I talked to him, and he explained some bits that I thought were actually kind of good points from Pirate Software's video, but then I made the mistake of watching the second one. The second video of Pirate Software's, the second of Pirate Software's video. And look, I needed the specifics of Stop Killing Games re-explained to me, yet even I knew the things that Pirate Software was just misrepresenting in that second video. And I think the basis of this big misrepresentation is the fact that it's gone so far from the crew. I think even Stop Killing Games acknowledges this, because they say, you know, it's the bouncing off platform, the crew. That's the one that they're using to jump off of, to push this whole thing that's going forward in the EU. There's a bunch of petitions everywhere. The crew was just the launching platform for that. But I think because it's gone so much further than the crew, because that's allowed Pirate Software to misrepresent in this way, I think I want to bring it back to the crew. Because one of the topics, I'll say what this topic that I thought maybe was a good point was the PvP games, the online-only games. Now, I don't really play, I mean, I guess I play X-Defiant. That's the only one recently that I play. I think I haven't played Fortnite in years. Etc. Games where the PvP is the focus of the game, basically, right? But the thing is one, it's talked about how, and I'm going to direct quote from Whammy here, because I'm not someone who, you know, can talk on this. I'm not someone who knows the exact specifics. So everyone keeps talking about server source code, which will break middleware licenses, and Pirate Software also says this puts the state of the game in danger. Well, just compile and release exe like the actual game client. And there's further arguments against this that I'll just put it on screen. I'll put it on screen. Whammy's argument against the online games issues. This is all well and good, right? This is fine. I don't know much about this. That's why I got their opinion, and that's why this video isn't about that specifically. But I couldn't really excuse later on, before I talk about the Crew one, yes, I couldn't really excuse the fact in the second video, Pirate Software explains how having the not always online can allow for cheaters, it can allow to ruin the general player experience, etc, etc. As far as I know, not a single person arguing for stop killing games has even once, not anyone being genuine at least, has even once, and if they have, then I would go against that. Not once have they said that games that are always online right now and are supposed to be because they're PvP focused games should have offline gameplay right now. A game like X-Defiant, where the full gameplay is online focused, I don't think anyone is saying it needs to be made offline now. The whole point of the Stop Killing Games initiative is that it needs to be made playable at the end of its life. It needs to be left in a playable state. When the devs are done with it and leaving the game, and X-Defiant is a free game anyway, now I just remembered, so I don't know what the technicality is on that, right? Are you allowed to shut down free games? Is that what's got? Because the payment aspect is a big part of it. I don't know. Again, that's one where I'm kind of iffy on. Maybe someone could explain it to me. But the thing is that, like, the point is to have the games playable after the fact by providing the tools to make an offline, like the client, right? Custom offline servers, or doing an offline patch, maybe making the modes, just replacing them with AIs, right? Like, I mean, AIs is in old school. I don't mean modern day AI. I mean, like, back in my day. I'm only 21. I'm not that old. Those games, AIs, right? Put computer players in there, so you're fighting against them. So there's at least something you're doing. I know it might be bad, but the game's in a playable state after the fact. Who is saying that the games need to add offline while it's an online game? One. But two, again, even I've got lost in those weeds now. I want to bring it back to the Crew. Because the Crew represents this whole issue so much better off. And I think Ross did make the same clarification to Pirate Software in the comments. I heard that got deleted. That's neither here nor there. I'm not here to discuss a bunch of other stuff, like defending or cynical with politicians. Look, I'm in the UK. You can't get... No, that's no. Okay, what I was gonna say is you can't get more cynical about your politicians. That's not true. What I mean is, we are very cynical about our politicians at the moment. And holy hell, if you knew half the stuff that... Cynicism on politicians exists. Okay, again, I'm getting lost in the weeds again. Pointless thing to be brought up. Pointless reason to go against the initiative. Regardless, I'm not here to talk about any of that. The point is that the Stop Killing Games initiative, the thing that I think should be more angled towards the point, is even though Ross has responded, I got Whammy's response for online-only games. The Crew is a game that did not need to be online only. That's what people are, and maybe Pirate Software are potentially missing. He makes the argument that, oh, well, it's advertised that it's online only. It's advertised that it's a live service. Does that mean a shutdown necessarily? No, we're not given, oh, don't worry, people buying the Crew, it's going to be shut down in 10 years. That's not said anywhere. Look, even if it was said once, and there could be back and forth on it that it wasn't mass advertised, but even if it was said once, it'd be plausible deniability. But it wasn't. A shutdown was not advertised. And the worst thing about that is that the Crew is a game that, again, did not need to be online only. I don't know if you know this, but there has been images found and proof found in the code that there was going to be an offline mode for the crew. There was going to be an offline mode. The crew 2 does not need an offline mode. An online only. The crew Motorfest definitely doesn't need an offline, an online only. And I'll explain about the crew Motorfest in a second. But the thing is, and the big point is that it did not need to be online only to begin with. Regardless if it was touted as a live service, there is enough game there. There is like 70% game there for it to have not been online only. Now, I bid you the question, and this is such an easy argument to make, but I bid you the question. The next God of War comes out, and it's the same quality, the same finish, the same polish, the same writing, the same quality. This won't be valid if you don't like the new God of War games, but bear with me. The same phenomenal game that God of War is. Except you can play it co-op, and there's a PvP mode in there somewhere, separate to the rest of the game. There's a PvP mode in there somewhere, and you can play it co-op if you want to. But the entirety of the game is the same God of War that we know. God of War Ragnarok. Now, what if because of that PvP feature, because of the co-op feature, that entire game is now lost? The entire game. I don't know how you can advocate for that. Regardless of the advertising, I think the point is, it's not the explicit point made in potentially it is. Again, I'm not as educated. I'm going on what I've been educated on. But but the thing is that if it's a game that does not need online, like The Crew, I played The Crew. It's got story. It's got the open world, the whole of America. Yes, that carries forward into The Crew too, but not the same ones. There's changes made. There's gameplay featuring that. There's the summit. There is the specs, the vehicles, the rough Porsche 911 version, the rough off-road version of that thing, the rally version of that thing, and the street version of that thing, the Ram CRT, some Ram truck, the off-road version, the dirt version, the street version, the perf version if they had it, the circuit version, the Subaru BRZ, the Subaru BRZ, the Subaru BRZ in drift, the Subaru BRZ in perf. All of those are lost, regardless. Those are things that are lost. Not to mention the gameplay, not to mention the specifics. All of that lost when it did not need to be. Even though I've presented these arguments for the online aspect of for online only games, The Crew wasn't that. It was not that. And I feel like because the conversation has drifted so far from not just The Crew, but any game like that, a game that is a story game only, that is then made online only. That. Now, Pirate Software talks about if a story game is if an online only game is marketed as a story game and then is shut down, or marketed as a single player is the term he uses, and then shut down, that's bad. But what if it didn't need to be in the first place? And how is that? Why would that be something to fight against? Well, because then the developers would put in an offline potentiality in the beginning. I'm not saying go back. I mean, even Ross says that games that are currently live service with no plan to end, that it'll filter off and then it'll have to shut down. Games that are currently live service, that he's going to make a follow-up to. But it's about the future games to be made, where at the beginning, it should be considered how the lifespan of the game is going to go. If you can't do it out of the blue, out of nowhere, do an update, it should at least be considered that from the beginning, if a game does not need to be online only, especially, even though, again, PvP can also do this with so many aspects, but if a game does not need to be online only, at this point, at this defeated point, I don't even care if it's online only during its lifespan, but have it planned out beforehand. And I want to quickly pivot, I'll come back to it, but I want to quickly pivot to the fact that The Crew 1, 10 years ago, they probably couldn't have foreseen the fact that the game would eventually need a shutdown. They made a new game. We're 3 games deep by the time the Crew 1 was being shut down. So, licenses is also something Pirate Software brings up. And it's something that I feel like people don't bring up enough in Stop Killing Games. Because licenses are definitely to blame. But it should have been taken into consideration in the first place. That's the biggest asterisk. Is because, look, I want to blame the licenses. The 70-year-old sat at the top of Subaru, Ford, Fiat, whatever. They will charge out the rear end. They will force you to remove pedestrians from your game. Remove the idea of actual cop chases from your game. They will do everything in their power to use their power for you to change your game. Because car brand licenses suck. Some of them are one-time payments. Some of them are subscription payments. Some of them, a contract would elapse anyway, even if it was a one-time payment during the contract. Some of them, you would have to pay per sale. It is terrible dealing with car licenses, and thus the Crew 1 had to shut down. It's the same reason they don't continue to sell Drive in San Francisco, because of music and car licenses. It's the same reason that when they went back and updated GTA 4, I think it was. I might be getting this wrong. I talked with Black Panther about this. He mentioned this. The same way they had to update. I'm going to use GTA 4 because that's the one I think it was. The way they went back and updated it, and they had to remove a bunch of songs because they couldn't re-license them. That's a massive issue. That again, that's why I want to bring it back to the Crew. Because some people don't consider that licenses are such a big reason for the Crew shutting down. But that should have been considered in the first place. And you know what Stop Killing Games does? Is it has future developers have to consider that eventually the game is going to shut down. Do I think that every developer at Ivory Tower or the Crew is adamant on, I'm so glad the game shut down? No. Why would they be? I don't think a single one has. The people sending death threats for the sake of shutting down the game, terrible people. The people threatening for the sake of the game being shut down, terrible people. Because knowing the developers, and just knowing humans, they aren't sat there going, I can't believe we finally took this game away from them. Why would they? They were still getting sales from the Crew. The Crew 2 had its biggest resurgence 5 years in, for something like 3 years in. With the USB tour update. Was the biggest update the Crew 2 ever had. The Crew 2 still gets sales to this day. When I upload a Crew 2 video, it gets more clicks than the regular videos. The Crew 2, why would they want to lose those sales? I'm saying that for the future, what Stop Killing Games will do is it's not gonna make it so that every game is hackable while the game is running, Pirate Software. It's gonna make it so that they just have a plan for the end of the game, for the end of the life cycle, so that these car companies are considered before the end of the game's life cycle, especially for a game that should not need to be online only, but also, even though you deny it, also for online only games. They just need to be playable. They're not saying they need to be destroyable with mods. I'm saying there needs to be an end plan. And that's why I want to slightly talk in the future a bit. The Crew 2 is going to be shut down. If nothing is done, the Crew 2 is going to be shut down. There is still updates being done to the Crew 2. And that makes me hopeful. Because updates require licenses, require those licenses still being active. And I hope that they have a plan for the Crew 2. But if they don't, we have a good 4 years left, and then it's sayonara to the Crew 2 as well. It's gone. It's done. It'll probably be a bit before the 10-year mark, like the Crew 1 was, because they licensed the cars before the game releases, obviously. So it'll be the same kind of heads up. It'll be the same kind of just before the 10-year mark, if the Crew 2 is to shut down. But here's the thing. The Crew Motorfest, it has servers for its PvP. Because the playlists don't even... The Crew aspect of the Crew is so lost in the source. I used to say that the next Crew game shouldn't even be called The Crew, it should be called Motorfest, because it should be called it should be called something else. And that's why I refer to it as Motorfest, because it's barely to do with crews anymore. The crews are still 4 people maximum. The lobbies are still 8 people maximum. I'm holding a Lego piece. The lobbies are still 8 people maximum. The crew aspect of it is so gone. The co-op aspect of it is so gone. The factions are gone. That I think the Crew Motorfest is the best suited to be switched off. Because all you gotta do is turn off the servers for the Grand Race and for the Demo Royale. The Summit, just leave off the leaderboard aspect of it, and just make it so that, or screenshot the leaderboards, upload it client side, if that's doable. If it isn't, sort off the leaderboards. But there are so many easy changes. Adjust the challenges. There's like gotta be what, low double digits of challenges that are required to play with someone else. Take off the crew aspect of them. Done. Change those challenges and just make the Summit a ever-looping system, which you just play the 9 events and then you receive them. But the thing is, the Crew Motorfest has been doing this work for us. The main stage, the monthly system, the FOMO, isn't even FOMO anymore, because you get the car after 3 months. They bring it back. They bring back a handful of the events from it, and they let you get the car in-game. None of that would require a connection. It's all there in the game. And we're only in the first year of its life cycle. Motorfest is perfectly set up. Not a single playlist, not a single main stage legacy, not a single anything needs the online service. The only things that would, like the custom show, just put in some base cars. If the game's shut down, it's shut down. 10 years from now, we're probably on the Crew 5 by that point. It would only be the PvP factors that we lose. The rest of the game is playable offline. That's the big thing with the Crew. And sort that out now. And I hope there's a plan for the Crew 2 for that. And the Crew 1 did not need to die. But I don't know why, even though Pirate Software at some point was in a room 50 meters away with someone else who, back in their lifespan, maybe at one point smelt a good point. He was right there, just that much of a good point. But then for some reason in this second one, he's just misrepresenting it. He's just getting it wrong. Because at what point does Stop Killing Games say, we need all the online focused games right now to go offline and allow modding? And now I know Pirate Software is using this as an inference, as you can infer the loopholes. You can use the loopholes in this. The point of Stop Killing Games is that they're left in a playable state. Left in a playable state. And as far as I remember, these online service games, they get updates, Mr. Pirate Software. They get updates. So it's just to put in the mind of the developers, custom servers, or sub out with bots. Bots, that's the word I should use, not AI. Bots. Sub out with bots or custom servers. Or both. But the game just needs to be left in a playable state. Not put in a I'm not asking for Call of Duty's online mode to be put in a playable state where if I plug out my Ethernet cable, it can still run. No. But when the game's done and dusted, let me still go on it. The Crew 1 is lost, and I had so many memories on that game. They're gone. For a game that did not need for any of that to happen. Sorry that this was just rambling. Sorry if this was a bit less coherent than it needed to be. But I think I got my point across. The Stop Killing Games movement has gone so far past the Crew. And I know it was never to do with the Crew specifically. That was just what launched it onto where it is. But I think the Crew encompasses so much of what needs to be in consideration that Pirate Software is missing. A game not needing to be online only, and just to have the plan there for when the game is to shut down. Say a game comes out, flops, dies, 2 players left. Oh no, now that team is going to have to scramble to offline patch a game that's dead anyway. No. They should have considered that to begin with. How hard is that of a thing to be considered? Did that make any sense? I don't know if that sentence made any sense. I hope this video made a bunch of sense. And I hope if you enjoyed my ramblings even a little bit, and you're into racing games or cars, you know, I do have a car-based podcast, Talk. That's in the description. Yeah, check that out, if you will. But if you enjoy this rambling, if you enjoy the coherence, if you enjoyed the takes, if you enjoyed any of it, I suppose it's gonna be about it from me, though. Thank you to popular members, especially Things Famous members, and an insane thank you to star members. We don't have any. And an insane top of the top thank you to icon members, HK. See you boys in the next one. That's about it from me in a bit.